Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Since we now have the raw data mine stats for attachments here in Warzone 2 available to us now thanks to sim.gg, I've been doing a lot of extra research trying to see if there's anything in game that is not adding up to what we see with the data mine stats. Obviously, what is actually happening, since in game we don't really get to see the detailed stuff. It's just the different bars, right? So I've gone through and I've looked at a lot of different categories. We've already broken down the underbarrel stats and whatnot. When I was looking at the muzzles, I came across some pretty interesting data. Obviously, if we were to go ahead and we look in game here, you'll notice a lot of these suppressors in specific, that's what we're focusing on here, have very similar pros. For instance, on our Castov 762 here, I've got the Custovia DX90 suppressor, and this is one that I've been promoting for several weeks at this point because it's one of the few suppressors that offers an increase to your velocity and your recoil control while not hurting your damage range, right? According to the cons. However, there's also other ones that are similar. Like for instance, Zulu here says it hurts your damage range, but it's still giving better control and velocity, but you can't tell which one's actually giving more control or more velocity because those stats aren't available. You also have things like the Echo line, which are apparently giving you just better control, but no better velocity. Things like the Talon say they're giving you better recoil smoothness, but according to all the data mining and all the tests, smoothness is not really adjusting much there. However, there's actually secret benefits to this that aren't listed in game. You have things like Polar Fire, again, saying recoil, smoothness, range, velocity, but how much versus something like maybe the Hush silencer. So there's a lot of interesting information here that is not necessarily apparent in game, and that's when we turn to sim to figure out what's actually going on. So that's where we're at now. This is the sim.gg website. I see you guys asking for it a lot, so that's exactly what the URL is. And if we look at the muzzles here on the 762 first up, I want to look at, again, the Custovia versus the Zulu, because as we saw, they're doing basically the same things. And if I scroll down here a little bit so you guys can see the stats here, on the Custovia DX90, you're getting 58 meters per second better velocity there. You're getting about 5% on the view kick, and that's also applied to the gun kick as well. However, you can see it's actually hurting your damage range. Just behind the face cam there, damage range minus 3%. So your damage range, despite the Custovia not saying it's hurting that, actually is reducing your damage range a little bit. Also on the Zulu, as we saw, this one says that it hurts your damage range. In fact, though, it's actually helping your damage range. You can see the damage range mole there is plus 5%. So these two attachments have incorrect pros and cons there listed. You can also see this is helping your velocity by 117 meters a second, so a little bit better than Custovia, while doing 2% to the view kick and the gun kick there. So you're actually getting slightly better damage range, slightly better velocity at the cost of a little bit less control and a slightly slower ADS time there as well. Custovia is 4 whole milliseconds faster, but it's interesting to see that those stats are actually incorrect in game, and you wouldn't have known that if we didn't have these raw data mine stats, which again, we've said this many times as we've gone through and broken down the best loadouts for stuff and the best setups in certain attachments. You can't always trust what's displayed in game. The bars that we have that represent the damage range, that represent the control or the accuracy, are not accurate, and it seems that the pros and cons of these are also not accurate. As we see here in game with the Talon, this is supposed to help your recoil smoothness, your range, and your velocity. There's nothing mentioned about control, but if we were to look on sim here, if I open this back up, you can see Talon is actually giving you 3% control benefits there, helping out your damage range, helping out your velocity a ton there as well, with 177 there, which is significantly better than Custovia and the Zulu, for instance. Again, though, it's gonna come at the cost of a slightly slower ADS speed, similar control aspects, and also much better damage range. Polar Fire, again, is an interesting one. It says recoil smoothness, damage range, velocity, and if we were to go ahead and we look at sim here, Polar Fire is actually just giving you better velocity and actually giving you better range, which is particularly interesting. So this one with the plus recoil smoothness is not giving you any benefits to recoil according to the data mine stats, whereas the Talon with the recoil smoothness is giving you better view kick by 4% and 3% horizontally and 3% on your actual gun pattern as well. So we have the exact same pros here between Talon and then also Polar Fire, except they're not giving the same pros. So there's a lot of inaccuracies And this is just one example on the 7.6.2. There's also things you want to look out for on the other weapon platforms. Obviously, a lot of the suppressors are shared between a lot of the guns in game, and it's going to be similar stats, not exactly with the exact same properties of, 3% control, 177 meters per second on the velocity. It'll differ depending on the gun a bit, but the fact that these pros and cons are not accurate is a pretty huge deal. The next gun I want to look at here is the TAC-56, and as we're getting into this part of the conversation, just a reminder, if you guys are new to the channel, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in the world of Call of Duty. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest news, updates, class setups, tips, you'll find all of that right here. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, join us ultimately on the road to 1 million subscribers. And if you guys are enjoying the video, if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it as well. Let's try and aim for 2,000 likes on this one. So what's interesting here now on the TAC-56 is that currently I got the Harbinger equipped. This is saying it's going to give you better sound suppression, velocity, and damage range, and recoil smoothness. And if you compare this to the Zulu, it's going to be similar, except Zulu will hurt your damage range and give you better control instead. So if we were to go ahead and look at Sim, we can see if that's actually accurate. So Harbinger is giving you better velocity and better recoil control. Again, the gun kick and the better damage range is 3% here, 14% for the damage range. If we look at Zulu, this is supposed to be hurting your damage range. However, you can see damage range multiplier is 5% increase. So another inaccurate con there. And this is also giving you 117 velocity versus the 177 on Harbinger. And it's got a faster ADS for 1% less kick here, 1% less recoil. So Zulu here, you're kind of getting more bang for your buck. It's got a 30 millisecond faster ADS, only 60 less meters per second on the velocity, and 1% less on the recoil, with a decent increase to your range as well. So like, you're getting a lot less cons here. Also the added pro of damage range. So Harbinger going to be a lot slower for slightly better range and velocity. Zulu a little bit faster for basically what's going to be the same amount of recoil control if you're looking at just those two specifically. You can see Echo Line here is supposed to help with your recoil smoothness and only hurt your damage range. However, if we go to Sim, we can see Echo Line is only hurting your damage range. You're not getting any pros here that are measured on Sim as of right now. And then in another curious case, the Broadhead here is saying that it's going to give you better smoothness and control, and it's going to hurt your damage range. As we saw in the Zulu, it's not hurting your damage range. But if we go ahead and look at Sim for the Broadhead, this one is in fact giving you better control, 7%, which is pretty solid, except it's hurting your damage range here. So that's actually accurate. So it's like every suppressor has a different story. Sometimes the pros are all accurate. Sometimes it's saying it's doing something like giving you recoil smoothness or control, and it's not really doing that. Sometimes the cons are accurate and your damage range is being reduced here. Sometimes it's saying it's reducing your damage range and it's actually giving you 5% better damage range. So there's a lot of inaccuracies going on with the gunsmith still. I wanted to give you guys a heads up on a few of the ones that I've discovered so far. I'm going to continue to search through Sim and see if there are certain things that are adding up correctly or not. So stay tuned for future videos like this. If there's anything in particular you guys want me to sort of investigate, if you will, let me know down in the comments below. But that's going to wrap things up for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications so you can always guarantee you're up to date with everything going on in the world of COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.